The baby's cry cut through the alley like a blade. Thin, ragged, wrong for the hour. Rain slid down the brick walls, pooling at Naomi Carter's shoes as she froze, breath caught halfway in. The sound came again, closer now, folded into the dark between a dumpster and a fire escape. Too small, too weak. She stepped forward before fear could argue. Somewhere across the city, a man lay unmoving in a hospital bed, his heart still beating, unaware that his life was crying for help behind a locked bakery door. Naomi bent down, and the world shifted. The baby's cry cut through the alley like something torn loose, thin, hoarse, alive in a place that wasn't. Naomi Carter stopped short, rain slicking her jacket, the smell of wet concrete rising sharp and metallic around her. The sound came again, closer now, folded into the dark behind a closed bakery where shadows gathered and stayed. It wasn't loud. That was what made it worse. A cry worn down to survival. She didn't look around for help. There was no one who would answer. Her shoes slipped as she stepped forward, pulse climbing her throat. The alley narrowed, brick walls sweating rain, trash bags sagging under water. The cry trembled, then faltered, as if the sound itself was running out of strength. "Hey," she said softly, the word barely breath, as if the dark might spook. She found him tucked beside a dumpster, shielded from the rain by a torn piece of cardboard, too deliberate to be accident, too careful. A baby wrapped tight in a white hospital blanket, the edges already soaked through, his tiny fists clenched near his chest. His face was red with effort, lips trembling as another cry tried and failed to fully form. Naomi crouched, knees protesting. The cold hit her hands when she touched him, not freezing, but close enough to matter. "Okay," she whispered, though she didn't know to whom. "Okay." She lifted him carefully, the way instinct took over before thought. He quieted almost immediately, breath stuttering as if surprised by the warmth. His head fit beneath her chin like it had been measured for it. Up close, details emerged that didn't belong in an alley. The blanket was thick, clean beneath the rain, hospital-issued, she realized, the kind she'd seen once when her sister had given birth. Around his ankle, half hidden beneath the fold, a plastic bracelet clung stubbornly in place, letters printed too small to read in the dark, and beneath the blanket, a glimpse of fabric, soft, pale blue, the stitching neat and precise. Not donated, not cheap. Naomi's jaw tightened. She scanned the alley. No footsteps, no voices, no rush of someone coming back, suddenly remembering. Just rain and the low hum of the city beyond the brick walls, indifferent and far away. "You're not supposed to be here," she murmured. The baby's eyes fluttered open, dark, too alert for how small he was. He looked at her, not searching, not unfocused, just there. Something in her chest shifted. Across the city, in a private hospital room washed in low light, machines breathed for a man who had forgotten how. The steady rise and fall of a monitor filled the silence. Julian Hawthorne lay unmoving, one hand curled loosely against white sheets, the other marked by a fading bruise where needles had come and gone. His heart kept time, his mind did not. A nurse adjusted a drip without looking at his face. Another night, another quiet hour. Outside his window, rain streaked the glass, blurring the city into something distant and unreachable. Back in the alley, Naomi tucked the baby closer, shielding his face from the rain with her body. Her phone buzzed once in her pocket, a reminder she ignored. She knew the rules. Don't get involved, don't take risks you can't afford, don't carry things that don't belong to you. She stood anyway. Every step away from the alley felt heavier than the last. She half expected a voice to call out, a hand to grab her arm, the world to correct itself. Nothing happened. She reached the street. Headlights passed. A bus roared by. Life went on. Naomi turned her collar up, cradling the baby beneath it, and walked into the night without looking back. Behind her, the alley swallowed its silence, and somewhere, a man slept through the moment his life was taken from the dark and carried into the rain. What would you carry away if no one was watching?
Enjoying the story so far? Whether you're listening while trying to catch some sleep, getting through your chores, or just taking a quiet moment for yourself, we're glad you're here. Take a minute and tell us where you're watching from in the comments, and stay with us for more stories like this.
Naomi learned the weight of quiet. It settled into her bones during the hours when Micah slept against her chest, his breath warm through the thin cotton of her t-shirt, the city outside her apartment window holding its noise like a held breath. She learned it in increments, 3 ounces of formula at a time, the soft click of a bottle warming on a stove she no longer trusted to be loud. She learned it in the way her phone stayed on silent, always face down. The apartment was small. 1 room, a bathroom with a flickering light, a window that stuck when it rained. Naomi made it work. She taped blackout paper over the glass. She learned which floorboards creaked. She kept diapers stacked behind the couch and cash folded into the lining of her purse. Micah grew quietly. He learned her heartbeat before he learned the world. He slept best when her hand rested flat on his back. He cried only when hunger pressed too hard, then stopped as soon as she lifted him. There was nothing dramatic about it, no speeches, no promises whispered into the dark, just repetition. Feed, rock, burp, breathe. Naomi took cash jobs at night, cleaning offices after hours, folding linens for a woman who didn't ask questions, watching a neighbor's elderly mother while the neighbor worked doubles. She kept her head down. She changed routes. She never posted photos. She never used his name in public. She learned how to watch reflections in windows, how to notice cars that idled too long, how to hold Micah closer when footsteps echoed behind her on the stairs. Once, walking home from the laundromat, she felt it, a pressure between her shoulders. Not a sound, not a sight, just the certainty of being seen. She turned sharply, heart climbing, but the street was empty. The feeling lingered anyway. At night, she lay awake counting Micah's breaths until her own slowed to match. Across the city, Julian Hawthorne dreamed in pieces. He stood in a corridor that never ended, its walls smooth and white, the air thick with the echo of machines. Somewhere ahead, a sound threaded through the quiet. A cry, thin, breaking, familiar in a way that made his chest ache. He tried to move, his legs didn't answer. The cry rose, then dipped, slipping around corners he couldn't turn fast enough to follow. His hands were heavy, useless. In the dream, rain began to fall indoors, streaking down walls that should not have been wet. The cry softened, steadied, then disappeared entirely. Julian woke to darkness and the steady rhythm of a monitor. The sound faded as consciousness slipped away again, leaving a hollow behind his ribs that no nurse ever noted. Back in the apartment, Micah turned 1. There was no cake, no candles. Naomi pressed a fingertip gently into the center of his palm and watched his fingers curl around it, strong for how small he still was. He smiled, not wide, not sudden, just enough to be sure it was meant for her. "You're okay," she told him, the words low and practical. "I've got you." She didn't say it like a promise, she said it like a fact. The bracelet stayed hidden in a shoebox at the back of her closet. She checked it sometimes, the plastic dulled now, the name still there if she squinted, proof she pretended not to need. Outside, sirens passed and moved on. Somewhere nearby, a door slammed. Naomi didn't flinch. She adjusted Micah higher on her shoulder and swayed until his breathing evened out again. In the quiet that followed, she felt it once more, that sense of pressure, distant but patient, like something waiting its turn. Micah slept on, unaware, and Naomi stood in the middle of her small, carefully guarded life, knowing without naming it that hiding had taught her to love, but not how to stay invisible forever. The gates recognized Naomi before the guards did. They slid open with the same quiet precision as always, revealing the Hawthorne estate in its disciplined symmetry: stone washed clean, hedges cut to obedience, lights positioned to flatter rather than illuminate. Nothing here was accidental. Even the silence felt curated. Naomi parked in the staff lot and sat for a moment with her hands on the wheel. She counted her breaths the way she had learned to do at night. In, out, steady. Micah was with a neighbor across town, asleep in a borrowed crib. She'd left before dawn, careful not to wake him, careful not to linger. She stepped inside through the service entrance, changed into her uniform, and tied her hair back. The mirror reflected the same woman the house had always known: quiet, capable, unremarkable. She adjusted the collar until it lay flat, hiding the faint mark on her neck where Micah liked to rest his face. The house smelled of lemon polish and restraint. Naomi moved from room to room with practiced ease. Dust never settled here. Still, the work needed doing. She wiped surfaces, straightened cushions, and aligned objects that were already aligned. Her hands moved on instinct, while her mind kept watch. Every sound carried farther than it should have. She reached the nursery wing without meaning to. The door stood open now, the room repurposed. No crib, no mobile, just a guest bedroom stripped of softness. Naomi paused in the doorway, something tightening low in her chest. She backed away. Evelyn Hawthorne entered the house without announcement. She did not raise her voice, she did not hurry. Her presence preceded her the way pressure precedes a storm. Staff straightened without being told. Conversations thinned, then stopped. Naomi felt it before she saw her, the shift, the subtle rearranging of attention. Evelyn wore black, tailored and severe, a thin line of pearls resting against her collarbone. Her gaze moved through the room like an inventory. She did not look at Naomi at first. "Has the West Wing been aired?" Evelyn asked. "Yes, ma'am," someone answered quickly. Evelyn nodded once. Her eyes lifted then, finding Naomi with unsettling accuracy. They lingered, measured. Naomi held her posture, hands still, chin level. "You're back," Evelyn said. "Yes, ma'am." A pause, long enough to be intentional. "You were gone for some time." Naomi met her gaze. "I took leave." Evelyn studied her face as if searching for a seam. "Did you?" "Yes." No explanation offered, none asked for. Evelyn turned away, satisfied or merely finished. She moved down the hall, heels soft against stone, and Naomi felt the release ripple through the house as if a held breath had finally been let go. Naomi resumed her work, but the rhythm was off now. The estate felt closer than it used to, rooms narrower, corners sharper. She caught her reflection in a polished surface and didn't recognize the woman staring back. Not fully. There was something guarded there now, something that watched even while it worked. In the master hallway, she noticed a framed photograph she had never seen before. A man stood beside a woman, both dressed for an event. He was tall, composed, his expression unreadable. The woman leaned into him, smiling, her hand resting low on his arm. Her breath stalled. The man's eyes were Micah's. Not identical, older, steadier, but unmistakable. The same shape, the same quiet alertness. Her fingers curled slowly at her sides. Behind her, Evelyn's voice cut clean through the hall. "That was taken the night before the accident." Naomi turned. Evelyn stood a few steps away, watching her watch the photograph. "She was very proud of him," Evelyn continued. "They both were." Naomi lowered her gaze. "I didn't mean to linger." "No," Evelyn said. "You didn't." Another pause, heavier this time. "You look changed," Evelyn added lightly. Naomi felt the weight of the shoebox in her closet, the bracelet, the year of careful silence. "I'm the same," Naomi said. Evelyn's smile was thin, precise. "We'll see." She walked away without another word. Naomi stood alone in the hall, the house pressing in around her, the photograph burning behind her eyes. She returned to her work with slower hands, aware now that every wall held memory and every silence listened back. Some truths didn't knock. They waited. Julian Hawthorne woke to restraint. Not hands, sound. A steady, mechanical rhythm pressed against his ears, insistent, patient. It took him several breaths to realize it wasn't coming from inside his chest. Light bled through his eyelids in thin, wavering bands. His mouth tasted like metal. His body felt borrowed. He tried to move his fingers. Nothing happened. "Julian?" a voice said, cautious, as if saying his name might break him. He opened his eyes. The ceiling above him was white and unfamiliar, the kind of white that tried to pass for calm. A monitor ticked steadily at his side. Tubes traced lines from his arm to machines that hummed like they had been waiting for him. "Can you hear me?" the voice asked again. A man this time. "Doctor. Badge. Too close." Julian swallowed. His throat protested. "Yes," he said, or thought he did. What came out was rough, scraped thin by disuse. The doctor smiled. Relief practiced, but real enough. "You're in St. Anne's. You've been unconscious for some time." Julian stared past him, mind lagging behind language. Time stretched oddly, elastic and unreliable. He searched for an anchor. "Claire," he said. The room shifted. The doctor's smile faltered, just slightly. A glance passed between two nurses. The silence that followed was not empty, it was crowded with things unsaid. Julian's pulse spiked. "Where is she?" Another pause, longer now. "I'm sorry," the doctor began. Julian cut him off. "My baby." The word felt strange in his mouth, unfamiliar, necessary. The doctor inhaled. "There were complications." Julian's gaze sharpened. His mind, slow moments ago, snapped into focus with unnerving clarity. "You're not answering me." A nurse stepped in, voice softer. "You need to rest." Julian's jaw tightened. "I'm awake." Silence fell again. The machines continued their patient counting, indifferent to the fracture forming in the room. Across the city, Naomi stood at the edge of the Hawthorne Estate's staff lounge, her phone gripped too tightly in her hand. She wasn't supposed to be there. She'd been sent to refill supplies. Instead, she watched a television mounted too high on the wall. "Hawthorne heir regains consciousness after year-long coma," the ticker read. Her breath caught. She felt it in her chest first, then her hands. Fear rose clean and sharp, not panicked, but precise, the kind that came from knowing the ground was about to move. She muted the sound, as if that could stop anything. In the hospital, Julian pushed himself upright despite the protest of his body. Pain flared, white-hot, then settled into something manageable. He ignored it. "You told the world my child died," he said quietly. No one answered. He looked at their faces, careful, composed, trained to avoid liability rather than truth. Something inside him hardened. Not anger, purpose. "Who signed the paperwork?" he asked. The doctor cleared his throat. "Your mother handled most matters while you were—" Julian closed his eyes. A pressure built behind them, dense and familiar. Control slipping, not taken, given away. When he opened them again, his voice was steady. "Get her." Back at the estate, Naomi folded towels she didn't need to fold, her movements too precise. She kept her head down as staff passed, her pulse loud in her ears. She thought of Micah's weight against her shoulder, the way he slept without fear. She thought of the photograph in the hall, the eyes. Julian Hawthorne sat alone once the room cleared. The monitors resumed their quiet watch. He stared at the wall, piecing together fragments that didn't align, memories ending too abruptly, the ache of something unnamed but constant. There was a space inside him that shouldn't be empty. He pressed his hand flat against his chest, feeling the beat beneath his palm. Somewhere beyond the hospital walls, something that belonged to him was breathing without him. And for the first time since he woke, Julian Hawthorne felt it clearly. Not loss, absence. The storm arrived without warning. Rain struck the estate windows in hard, uneven bursts, wind dragging branches across glass until the sound threaded through the halls like a warning that refused to be named. Naomi felt it before she saw it, the pressure behind her eyes, the tightness in her chest that made each breath a measured decision. She wiped the same counter twice, then stopped. Across the city, Julian Hawthorne sat upright in a hospital bed with a legal pad balanced against his knee. His hand cramped as he wrote, but he didn't slow. Dates, names, gaps. He drew a straight line beneath the year he could not remember and pressed the pen down until the paper dented. "Birth records," he said to the attorney on speaker. "Hospital admissions, neonatal transfers, everything." There was a pause. "We've already requested—" "You've already accepted what was handed to you," Julian replied. His voice stayed level. "I'm asking for what wasn't." Silence. Then a careful, "Understood." He ended the call and stared at the wall as rain smeared the city outside his window into streaks of gray. His mother's explanations replayed with new edges. Complications, a funeral he never attended, a name never spoken twice. The absence inside him pressed harder, no longer abstract. Back at the estate, Naomi folded linens with a precision that bordered on reverence. The storm darkened the halls, turning polished stone into mirrors that caught her reflection in fragments. She kept seeing Micah's face in the glass, his steady eyes, the way his fingers curled around hers when he slept. Her phone buzzed once, a message from the neighbor. "He's fine, ate everything." Naomi exhaled. Relief was brief. Fear slid back into place. She felt it when the questions began. A supervisor asked about her schedule. Another mentioned visitors she hadn't seen before, men in neutral suits who walked the halls with purpose and didn't look at the art. She kept her answers short. She worked faster. She avoided the nursery wing entirely. In the master corridor, she paused by the window. Rain hammered down, the grounds blurring into motion. The urge rose suddenly and sharply, to speak, to put the bracelet on the counter and say the words out loud before courage abandoned her again. "He's alive." Her throat closed around the thought. Julian stood in a records office 2 floors below the hospital, rain tapping at narrow windows. Boxes lined the shelves, labeled with dates that should have held certainty. He opened one, empty. Another held copies that contradicted each other for hours. A third referenced a transfer that never completed. He didn't raise his voice. He didn't demand. He thanked the clerk and left with copies tucked under his arm, his steps slow, deliberate. Control returned in pieces, like a suit tailored back onto his frame. Something had been taken, and someone had helped it disappear. Naomi felt the presence before the voice. Naomi Carter. She turned to find Marianne Hawthorne standing a careful distance away, hands clasped loosely in front of her. There was no accusation in her posture, no command, just attention sharpened by restraint. "Yes, ma'am?" Marianne's eyes flicked to the window, then back. "You were here the night before my brother's accident." It wasn't a question. Naomi nodded once. "And you took leave afterward." "Yes." Marianne studied her face as if searching for the outline of a truth she already suspected. "Have you ever wondered what happens to things this family decides not to see?" Naomi's pulse thudded loud in her ears. She said nothing. The storm intensified, rain striking glass with a violence that felt personal. Marianne's voice softened. "If there's something you're carrying, you don't have to carry it alone." Naomi looked past her, through the window to the blurred grounds below. She pictured Micah's weight, the steadiness of his breathing, the way safety had been built one silent night at a time. "I wouldn't know how to put it down," Naomi said. Marianne nodded, as if that answer told her everything. She stepped back, leaving space where pressure had been. That night, Julian lay awake, the legal pad resting on his chest, rain finally easing into a steady rhythm. Across the city, Naomi rocked Micah in the dark, the storm thinning to a hush. Between them, the truth waited, patient, close enough to touch. How long can love survive in hiding? Evelyn Hawthorne did not panic. She moved. By morning, calls had been placed from rooms without windows. Attorneys were summoned who understood discretion as a currency. Trust documents resurfaced. Clauses were revisited. The word inheritance never crossed her lips, but it hovered in every conversation like a held blade. "Confirm the death certificate again," she said calmly. "I want the chain intact." A man across the table nodded. "And the staff?" Evelyn's gaze remained steady. "People reveal themselves when they're pressured. Apply it evenly." Across the city, Julian felt the shift before he saw the results. A background check flagged as incomplete, a record sealed that should not have been, a payment rerouted through an entity he did not recognize but knew by instinct to be his mother's work. Control tightened around him, not as a grip, but as a net. He let it. "Hire them," he told his head of security, voice low. "Off the books, quiet." "And the scope?" Julian's jaw flexed once. "Everyone who touched my life while I was unconscious." The decision landed heavily, unmistakably wrong, and yet necessary. He felt the cost immediately, a dull pressure behind his eyes, the familiar ache of choosing force where patience would fail. He did not tell himself it was for justice. He told himself it was the truth. Naomi noticed the men first. Not their faces, those were forgettable by design, but their pauses, the way one lingered too long by the service entrance, the way another asked about shift rotations with interest that didn't match the question. Her phone lost signal twice in a day it never had before. She stopped taking the same route home. At night, she double-locked the door and checked the window latch with a hand that would not quite steady. Micah slept through it, thumb tucked beneath his chin, breath even and trusting. Naomi stayed awake, listening to the building settle, to the footsteps above, to the distant hum of a car that did not move on. The pressure between her shoulders returned, closer now, intent. At the estate, Julian's presence arrived before he did. Naomi felt it ripple through the halls as staff adjusted, conversations dimming. He stood near the staircase, taller than she expected, thinner than the photograph, eyes sharper for having been closed so long. He watched without staring, the way men did when they were counting. "Miss Carter?" His voice in her name landed like a dropped plate. "Yes, sir?" He studied her face, searching not for guilt but for alignment. "You took leave last year." "Yes." "During my coma." "Yes." The pause stretched, not hostile, assessing. "Do you have children?" The question hit harder than the accusation would have. Naomi's breath caught, barely. She chose her words with care. "I look after one." Julian nodded, as if filing the answer away. "That's all." He turned to leave, then stopped. "Security will be adjusting protocols," he added without looking back. "Don't be alarmed." Alarm bloomed anyway. That night, Naomi found her apartment door ajar. Nothing was missing, nothing disturbed. Which was worse? She stood in the threshold, Micah heavy on her shoulder, the room suddenly unfamiliar. The air felt touched. She closed the door and locked it, then slid down against it, lowering herself carefully until she was seated on the floor. Micah stirred, then settled, his small hand curling into the fabric of her shirt. "It's okay," she whispered, unsure who she was convincing. At the estate, Julian reviewed footage he had no right to see. He paused it on a frame of Naomi in the service corridor, her posture straight, her eyes alert, not frightened, not careless. Protective instinct rose in him, unwanted and immediate. "Bring her in," he ordered, the decision forming as he spoke. "Tomorrow." Naomi was told to report to the study after her shift, no reason given. She stood outside the door, pulse loud in her ears, the year of silence pressing hard against her ribs. Inside, Julian waited, the desk between them a deliberate boundary. "I need to ask you something." Her mind raced ahead, assembling consequences, losing Micah, losing safety, losing the fragile world she had built with her own hands. "Yes," she said carefully. "Did you see anything unusual the night before my accident?" The question was precise, surgical. Her mouth opened, closed. "I don't remember." The words landed wrong. Julian's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes cooled. He nodded once, a decision sealing itself behind his gaze. "Thank you," he said. She left the room with her spine straight and her heart splitting down the middle. Outside, the estate lights flicked on one by one as dusk settled in. Naomi walked away with the knowledge settling heavy and unmistakable between her shoulders. She was no longer hiding from the dark. The dark was looking back. Marianne Hawthorne chose the hour carefully. Julian was alone in the study, dusk pressing blue against the windows, the estate quiet in the way it became only when decisions had already been made. He didn't look up when she entered. Papers lay spread across the desk, timelines, photocopies, notes written in his tight, controlled hand. "You're circling the truth," Marianne said. "You're just doing it from the wrong side." Julian capped his pen. "If you're here to tell me to stop, I'm here to tell you what you already know," she replied. She moved closer, not crossing the invisible line he kept around himself. "The baby didn't die." The words landed without sound. Julian didn't react. His stillness deepened, as if something inside him had finally locked into place. "I know," he said quietly. Marianne exhaled. "Then you know our mother lied." "Yes. And you know she didn't act alone." Julian's eyes lifted then, sharp. "Say it." Marianne hesitated, not out of fear, but grief. "I helped him live," she said. "Not here, not safely, but long enough." Silence pressed in, thick and unforgiving. "You took him," Julian said. I moved him, Marianne corrected. I left him where someone decent would find him. I didn't know who, I just knew it couldn't be anyone connected to us. Julian leaned back slowly, the chair creaking beneath him. The alley rose in his mind, not as memory, but as instinct. Rain, darkness, a cry that had haunted the edges of his dreams. "Naomi," he said. Marianne nodded once. Across town, Naomi packed with practiced speed. Not everything, only what mattered. Diapers, formula, the shoebox, Micah's worn blanket. She moved through the apartment without pausing, breath steady, hands sure. This was not panic, this was preparation. She lifted Micah from the crib and held him for a moment longer than necessary, breathing him in. "We're going," she whispered, not explaining where. He pressed his face into her shoulder, trusting her weight, her warmth. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She ignored it. Back at the estate, Julian stood at the window, rain threatening again in the heavy sky. Pieces aligned with brutal clarity now. The leave Naomi had taken, her guarded answers, the way she watched exits, the apartment door left ajar, the men he had sent. He closed his eyes. "Call them off," he said. Marianne looked at him. "All of them?" "Yes." "And Naomi?" Julian's jaw tightened. "I'll handle her." Naomi reached the door just as her phone rang again. She paused this time, Micah heavy against her chest. She answered without speaking. "Don't go," Julian said. His voice was not raised, it wasn't commanding, it carried something steadier than authority, recognition. Naomi closed her eyes. "You don't get to say that," she replied softly. "I know," he said, "but I need you to listen." She waited, her heart beat loud in her ears. "I know about the alley," Julian continued. "I know about the year I lost, and I know why you didn't speak." Naomi's grip tightened, fear surged, not sharp now, but aching. "If you know, then you know what happens next." "Yes," he said, "I also know what won't." She leaned against the doorframe, the apartment suddenly too small to hold the truth pressing in. "I won't take him from you," Julian said. "Not tonight, not ever." Silence stretched between them, fragile and loaded. Naomi swallowed. "You don't know what your mother is capable of." Julian's jaw hardened, not with anger, but resolve. "Neither does she." Outside, thunder rolled distantly, restrained for now. Naomi looked down at Micah, then back at the door she had been ready to walk through. "I'm not ready," she said. "I didn't ask you to be. Just don't disappear." She ended the call without answering. Julian lowered the phone slowly, the weight of the truth settling into something solid at last. Across the city, Naomi stood in the quiet with a packed bag at her feet, knowing she had reached the edge of hiding. And for the first time, neither of them stepped back. What if the truth isn't cruel, only late?
The rain stopped at the gates. Not gradually, not politely. One moment it pressed against the estate in sheets, the next it fell away, leaving the air rinsed and bright, as if the sky had reached a decision. Naomi felt the change as Julian opened the front door. She stood in the entry hall with Micah against her chest, the year of silence held together by the steady rise and fall beneath her palm. The house felt different now, less watchful, less certain of itself. Light slipped in through the tall windows, catching on stone and glass that had always resisted warmth. Julian faced his mother in the center of the room. Evelyn Hawthorne did not sit. She never had when she believed she still commanded the outcome. Her hands rested lightly on the back of a chair, posture immaculate, expression composed enough to pass for calm. "You've brought the housekeeper," she said, eyes flicking once to Naomi. "This is unnecessary." Julian didn't look at Naomi. He didn't look away from his mother. You told me my son died." Evelyn's mouth tightened. "I told you what was best." "For whom?" "For the family." Julian stepped closer, not threatening, final. "For you." Silence stretched. The house listened. Mary Ann stood off to the side, arms folded, no longer hiding where she stood. "It was never yours to decide," she said quietly. Evelyn's gaze sharpened. "You left him in an alley." "I left him alive," Mary Ann replied. Julian reached for Micah then, not to take him, just to touch. His fingers brushed the child's back, felt the warmth, the solidity, proof. Naomi watched his hand tremble, just slightly. "Look at him," Julian said. Evelyn didn't. "Look at him," Julian continued. "My name he carries, my blood, my responsibility." "And my risk," Evelyn snapped, control finally cracking. "A bastard child would have fractured everything. You were weak. You still are." Julian smiled then, not kindly, not cruelly, with clarity. "You tried to erase my son. You lost your place in my life the moment you decided that." He turned to Naomi at last. Her knees nearly buckled. She had imagined this moment 100 times, imagined anger, accusation, loss. What she found instead was space, permission, the absence of threat. "I'm sorry," Julian said to her, voice low and even, "for the men, for the pressure, for not seeing sooner." Naomi's breath hitched. She shook her head once, the motion small and instinctive. The year rushed up on her all at once, the nights, the fear, the careful joy of survival. "I didn't save him for you," her voice broke, then steadied. "I saved him because he was there." Julian nodded. "That's why he lived." The truth settled, heavy and complete. Evelyn straightened, drawing herself up as if authority might still answer her call. "If you think the board will—" "They won't," Julian said. "I've already spoken to them. You were unconscious. I'm awake now." The words ended it. Evelyn's eyes flicked once more to the child, then away. She gathered her coat with stiff precision and walked toward the door without another word. The house did not follow her this time. It remained still. When the door closed, the sound was final. Naomi sank onto the nearest chair, Micah still clutched to her chest. The release came quietly, no sobs, no collapse, just breath leaving her in a long, shuddering line. Julian knelt in front of her, close enough to be present, far enough to ask permission without words. Micah reached out, small fingers curling around Julian's thumb. Julian closed his eyes. Light poured through the windows, unimpeded now, touching places the house had kept in shadow for years. Dust rose and settled. The air shifted. The truth stood where silence had been, and nothing else needed to be taken.
Time did not rush them. It moved the way morning does after a long night, slow, deliberate, careful not to startle what had survived. Naomi noticed it in small things first, in the way Micah's crib was placed near a window that caught the early sun, in the way his name was spoken without lowering voices, in the absence of footsteps outside closed doors. The house learned him, not all at once, not with celebration, just through repetition. Micah's laughter echoing down a hall that had once swallowed sound, his toys left where they fell, his shoes lined beside Julian's, absurdly small and undeniably real. Julian watched from the margins at first. He attended meetings that could have been shields, press inquiries, board sessions, carefully worded invitations that implied damage control. He declined them all. When advisors warned of reputational risk, he listened, nodded, and did nothing differently. "My priorities are not up for debate," he said once, and that was enough. Naomi noticed the shift in him most at night. When the house quieted and Micah slept, Julian moved through rooms with less armor. He spoke less. He stayed longer. Sometimes he stood in the doorway of the nursery, one hand braced against the frame, watching his son breathe as if memorizing the rhythm. Naomi never interrupted. She remained, not behind, not beneath. Her uniform disappeared quietly from her closet, replaced with clothes chosen for comfort, not invisibility. No one told her to leave the staff wing. No one asked her to stay. The distinction mattered. She stayed anyway. There were moments when the weight of it pressed in, the knowledge of how easily things could have gone differently. Naomi felt it when Micah fell and cried, when Julian's jaw tightened at a sound that echoed too closely to memory. They met those moments without ceremony. A hand offered, a breath steadied. The day went on. Love did not announce itself. It lived in proximity, in shared meals, eaten without hurry, in the way Julian paused before decisions now, eyes flicking to Naomi not for permission, but alignment, in the way Naomi spoke Micah's name with the quiet confidence of someone who knew it would be answered. One evening, Julian found her in the garden, Micah asleep against her shoulder, fireflies blinking low among the hedges. He stopped a few steps away. "You don't have to stay," he said, not pushing, not pulling. Naomi adjusted Micah's weight and looked at him. "I know." She didn't explain further. She didn't need to. Julian nodded, something settling behind his eyes. He took a step closer, careful not to wake the child, and stood beside her in the soft dark. The house glowed behind them, no longer a fortress, just a place holding people who had chosen one another. Micah stirred, then slept on. Naomi stayed where she was. Julian stayed too, and in the quiet that followed, nothing more was required. Some love doesn't arrive loudly. It stays.
Hey you, my fellow story family. Thank you for staying with us till the very end. We'd love to hear how this story made you feel. Would you have done anything differently? What did it teach you? If this story mirrors a season of your own life, feel free to share it with us in the comments. Stay close to this channel for more stories that speak of strength, love, and hope.